Hi guys, welcome back to this week's video. Before we go into the training element, I wanted to update you with a couple of parish notices. First up, I've launched the new website for the channel this week, gregmackery.com. Only a couple of pages at the moment. First one is an introduction to the channel, who I am, what it's about. And the second and most important one is the video archive page. So where you've seen me do a video on something in the past and you're now trying to replicate it or follow through the example on your home network, but you can't find the page anymore, have a look at the video archives page. It's got a search feature at the top, and if you can't quite remember the wording, it's broken down into sections for newbies, for FPP, hardware, etc., so that you can find the video you were looking for nice and easily. Now I'm going to be adding to that website as we go along with useful tips and tricks where we've got detailed information on certain things like pixel power draws, things like that. That's all going to be added in the very near future. So keep an eye on it for lots of useful information and a ready source of reference as you go forward. Now all of this stuff costs money, and so I have also set up this week a new Patreon page for the channel. For a small monthly fee, you can get extra exclusive content. We'll get some behind the scenes footage sorted out. We're going to have visits to unique places for unique member videos. And also a once a month Ask Me Anything / Zoom session to help the channel, to help you going forward with your light show. So if you like the videos, then consider becoming a member via the Patreon page. The link will be down below. That's it from me. Here we are with this week's video on DMX. Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. This week we're going to be taking a look at how to set up a DMX device in xLights and get it connected and set up via our F16 Falcon here. Now this one is an F16 version 4. The same principles apply to the V3 and the V5. The first thing we're going to concentrate on is the wiring to the moving head to get our connectivity physically set up so that we're then ready to configure it in software, both on the F16 itself and in xLights. And then we'll run through the configuration, get that done, and then we'll create a short test sequence that we can use to make sure that the functions on the moving head are working exactly as we expected. So let's crack on, let's get the mover out and have a look at it and see what we need to connect it up. Now we've gone all in on this one. We bought one of the most expensive moving heads I could find to show you the complicated setup that's needed. So let's see if I've got enough oomph to lift it and get it on the desk. It's really quite heavy. Oh, there she is. Look at this. No expense spared in our Amazon special mini moving head. The fact it's small, as far as xLights is concerned, doesn't matter. Functionality wise, it does all the same things that a big mover does. We've got pan, we've got tilt, we've got different colors inside, and it runs from DMX. So happy days. We can get it configured, demonstrate as we go through the different channels and things that are needed, and get it up and running. Connectivity wise, on the back here, we've got a DMX input, we have a DMX output, So these along with most other lights can be daisy chained. So you only need one cable coming in from the controller to run a whole string of these devices. Typically the whole string would allow you to run up to 512 channels in total, and this little one is going to be in 8 channel mode. So you can divide 512 by 8, and that's the number of movers that you can have in your string. Each one is set up with a start address, so this one will be on channel number 1 to start. If we had a second one in the chain, that would be set to start on channel 9, and so on. So we need a cable then to go from our F16, which doesn't have a socket like this, to the 3-pin XLR or DMX plug that's needed here. And then of course we've got a mains input in the form of an IEC C13. Looking at the F16 then, the output that we're going to be using is the one that is labelled on the board as DMX right here. And that is this RJ45 or 8P8C connector here that we're going to plug into. Now you can buy specific cables online to make this happen. I went for the easier route and I made my own. I bought an XLR plug from an online store that delivers next day and hacked a Cat5 cable. So here we go. This is my Cat5 cable. This end is wired as normal to 568B recommendations. So orange and white, white and green, blue, white and blue, green, white and brown, brown. The only ones that we're going to be using on this are going to be the white and orange, and the white and brown. So the center cores don't matter. So these need to be wired to the 3 pins in the plug here, and these come apart quite easily. We can just unscrew the back of the jack, and then the whole thing comes out. So the connectivity on the back here is quite straightforward. We have white and brown are the earth or the ground for this, and these are connecting to pin number 1. We have orange going to pin number 2, and we have white and orange going to pin number 3. And I'll put this in the comments below with a better drawing. Once they're done, they're soldered onto there. We can then reassemble the plug. Now these are best assembled upside down to get that. Oh, there we go. Get that in there. Through she goes. Boom, there we are. That's in. We'll just make sure that it comes all the way through to the front. There we are, and then we can screw that back together. So that's our cable made up, nice and straightforward. So that is just going to plug into the F16 and is going to go across and plug into the mover. So let's plug that straight in there. There we are. So that's our data cable. Of course, you can make these up to any reasonable length. Ideally, you'd have your F16 and its enclosure fairly close to the movers. If they're going to be a long way away, you might want to look at an alternative solution like the Baldric DMX or something like that, so you can get Ethernet connectivity closer to the mover. But this is the demo that we're doing today. Now we've got to get power and Ethernet to our F16 to get that up and running. So I've got an Ethernet cable here ready to go. So let's unwind that. Oh, a bit of a tangle. All right. So I'm just going to plug into one of the two, doesn't matter which, Ethernet ports at the top. And that is then going to go to my show switch. Now, because I'm not running any lights off it for this demo, I'm going to use some relatively thin cable just to power the board. So I've got some 12 gauge here all hooks up onto a mean well. I think this is 10, this might be 14 even. 14, there you go, so it's 14 gauge I've got here that's set up ready to go. I wouldn't obviously use this with pixels connected, but I'm only running this board just to power the electronics on board today. So I'm going for V2 because that's the side that powers the electronics on an F16. There we are, so V2 and ground are now hooked up. We've got our DMX cable coming out and our jumpers are all set for DMX. So there are 3 jumpers down here and they're all set to DMX. DMX cable's in, network cable's in, power cable is ready. Let's get it plugged in. Now my F16 has powered up. We can see that it's got an IP address on the board, but I'm not entirely sure what the config is on here because I'm not sure what I was using it for last time. So I'm going to reset it to the beginning and we'll start it up from scratch with a completely blank install. So using the V2 switch over on the side here, I can turn it off by setting it to external power, and I've got nothing connected to the external power, so that's just like an on-off switch at the moment. I'm then going to hold down my select button and I'm going to reapply the power. There we go, and it says resetting 16 ports, so I can release it now and it's going to fire up with a factory fresh install. There we go, so it's rebooted. We've got an IP address of 192.168.4.3 in this case, because .4 is my show network, and we're ready to go. So let's start. I've got a blank install of now I've got a completely blank install of xLights here that's ready to go. The laptop is also on the show network to keep things nice and simple, so I should be able to do a discover to find my F16. There we go, we'd found it, good as gold. So there's my F16 and that's ready now to be configured. Let's have a quick buzz through what it's found. So it's found vendor Falcon, an F16v4 with 16 local ports. Perfect. The only thing I'm going to change here is the IP address because I don't like it using DNS. I'm going to put the IP address as seen on the OLED in here to make sure there's no dramas later on. There we go, that's done, and we can save. And our little indicator down at the bottom right hand corner has gone green, so that's a good indicator that the device is connected and is talking to xLights. Right, so into our layout tab, and I'm going to bring in the model for this moving head, which is going to be a DMX, and it's going to be a moving head. There we go. So that's highlighted, then we can drag it out, and there we go. There is our xLights model. Now, unlike most models at this point, we've now got to configure it to set it up for the particular channels and channel order that this device uses. Now, when you get your moving head, you're going to get a manual with it, which I know most of us just throw away, but we need it. The piece in particular we're going to need is the bit that says what channel is what. And here we have the channel list for this particular moving head. So channel number 1 is pan, which is side to side. Channel 2 is tilt, so up and down. Channel 3 is an overall blackout stroke master dimmer stroke strobe. Now in our case, I'm going to set that to 135 and we're going to leave it there because we're going to control the lights via the dimmers on the individual channels. Channels 4, 5 and 6 are red, green and blue, 0 to 100%. And then channel 8 is the speed of pan and tilt. Now I'm going to set that to 255, which is as fast as it goes, because we're actually going to be controlling the individual positioning using the pan and tilt values through xLights. So we don't want there to be a delay between us telling it to do something and it actually getting there. We want it to go as fast as it can to the value that we're giving it. First of all, the number of channels. So we are on 8 channels, so that's good. And then we've got to run through and tell it which channel is which. So our pan is channel 1. That's fine. And then we have no fine control for that, so that's not going to be used. This says how far will it go in each direction. So we're going to need to double check that. It says 180 degrees, so that would imply that it can go all the way around to halfway and then back again. But I think this one is going to go further. Yeah, I think that's going to be 270, but we'll find out in a few minutes. Our total range of motion, oh there we are, 540. So that would be 1.5 times in each direction. So we'll see what we do there. Tilt, what number is our tilt motor? It says channel 3, and if I just quickly refer back, we want channel 2 for tilt. So we'll put channel 2 in there. Again, range of motion we'll have a look at. What color type is it? Have we got RGB or have we got RGBW? This one is RGBW. We have red, green, blue and white as separate channels. So RGBW is correct. And our channels are 4, 5, 6 and 7 for RGBW. So let's get those. Oh, where's it gone? There we go. So our channels are 4, 5, 6 and 7. Okay, dimmer properties. Do we have a separate dimmer control? We do. Our master dimmer is channel 3. We don't have a separate shutter control. We don't have a separate beam length or beam properties. And our fixed channels. This is one that we need to look at because we decided we're going to set channel 3 fixed to 135 and I'm going to set channel 8 to 255. So we can say that we've got 2 fixed channels. And it's wandered off on me again. 2 fixed channels. And I can drop that down now. There we go. Channel 3, which we're going to set to, let's just drag this out a bit so we can see it. There we are. Channel 3, which we're going to set to 135. And channel 8, which we were going to set to 255. Let's just double check those. Happy days. Yep, that's those done. So that is all of our channels set up in xLights. Now all we need to do is we need to go back to the controller and do the visualize to put the model onto the right port on the controller. Now here's our model. And if I scroll down through past the pixel ports, we see we've got serial port. And it's the serial port on the F16 that we're using for DMX. So we're going to take DMX and stuff it on the serial port. There we are. Done. And save. And I then need to upload my output to configure the F16. So we can go up to upload output. That is quite probably going to reset the F16. No, it hasn't this time. There we are. That says it's done it. So let's go to open the F16 config and we'll take a quick look. Here it is. If we go to our output settings serial, there we are. We can see that we're set to DMX starting at port Universe 1, channel 1 for our 512 channels. So that's all good. So that should be the F16 configured. Now that it's set, we know that it's set up for DMX and should be sending DMX data. I'm happy now to plug this in because we're not going to get spurious info coming down here, which might have upset it beforehand. There we go, it's woken up, and on the rear of the head, which I can probably just about show you on here, we can see that it's set for channel number 1 starting, and there's a little red flashing dot in the corner to indicate that it's receiving DMX data. So she's ready to go. All we need to do now, I'm sorry it's a little bit noisy, it's got a great fan running away in there. What we need to do now is we need to configure a short sequence to start testing our channels. Now I'm going to start a sequence, file, new sequence, animation, 20 frames. Here we are, here's our new sequence ready to go, and here's our moving head. I'm going to expand the moving head just by double clicking on it out to its individual channels. So there's our channels. So we can start by testing each channel in turn and make sure that they do what we're expecting them to do. Now to do that, I'm going to use the on effect. Okay, we'll drag that down, and I'm going to just drag that out to about 15 seconds. And I don't want it across everywhere. I've moved that in the wrong place. Let's move that. There we go. That's on node number 1 now. It should be pan. So I'm just going to stretch that out from the start to the beginning. And then I'm going to set my start intensity to 0. And there we go. And my end intensity is set to 100. So if we play this, it should start at one end of rotation and make it to the other end of rotation. So let's highlight it and play. And you know what helps? If I turn on output to lights. Let's turn on output to lights. There we go. And then I play the sequence, and there we go. We have movement. It's gone halfway, 3/4, 2/3 of the way. And then it went back to the beginning. Perfect. So we know now that our angle of attack, or the total number of degrees of rotation, is 540, because it went from facing towards you, past pointing backwards, which is 180, back to facing you again, and all the way back to facing backwards. So that's 540 degrees. And if I run that again as a demo, and there we go, so we've got 180, we've got 360, and another 180 is 540 before it stopped and went back to park. So there we go, so that's working. If I bring the effect down onto channel 2, which is tilt, we can see that tilt is now happening. If I run the sequence properly, there we go. The tilt is up and running. So we've got And that's going to peak, pointing pretty much straight backwards. Yeah, there you go. Beautiful. So that's working. So we're going backwards and forwards on tilt from around and round on the pan. Now we can check out the colors. So I'm going to bring in another on effect, and we'll start that on node number 4, which should be red. And I messed that up. Yeah, let's do that again. There we go. And I've still got output to lights on. Right, so let's just play that. And it's tilting, but we're not getting any light there. So that's curious. No light there. So let's just save this sequence and render it. And then I'll run it again. Okay, so we've got nothing happening there. Nothing happening there on red, which is interesting. So let's just go back into our settings for the mover. And I've got a feeling it might be something to do with this channel 3. So I'm going to set this to 0. Let's render that again and save it. We've still got no light on channel 3 on red, still nothing on red. So I'm going to manually bring in an on effect to channel 3, and we'll see what that does for us. So let's bring that in. We've got red flickering now. So let's bring that, and I'm going to set that as 100. So that is on, and look at that, there we go. So this one needs channel 3 to be on all the time to get an output. Let's change this pan and tilt, and I'm just going to set that at an angle slightly away from the camera so that we don't blind you with it. So that's red is working there. Let's try green and blue. I'll bring in another on. We can bring that in part way. And I'll bring, let's go all out and bring them all in, one after the other. And we'll see what it does for us, and we'll have white on at the end. Okay, so we should have red, green, blue, and white. So let's do a quick render. Save. And play. And there we go, we've got red is ramping up. And then we should start to mix across to blue as well. And this is difficult to tell on the video, looking at the monitor in front of me here. There we go, so we can see that it's gone blue now. And it's going to go, oh sorry, it went green, now it's definitely gone blue. And as this finishes up, we should go white. There we are, that's gone white. And sequence is over. Happy days. So there we go, a fairly short and sweet one this week. I'm not going to go into details of how you sequence the moving heads because different vendors have different styles that they like to use. What we've demonstrated here is how to physically hook it up. So we've taken an F16, we've created a cable, plugged it into the moving head. We've got our Ethernet obviously, and that's connected to our show network in this case. Power I've brought in. I've only used some skinny 14 AWG cable because I'm only powering the board, I'm not running any pixels. Normally if this was running pixels I'd have 10 AWG into each side. That's good as gold. We then set the head up in xLights. We looked at the channel information that's supplied by the vendor and we configured all of the motions there. We've demonstrated it running and we could see when we're running that xLights is demonstrating what we're doing. So that's all good. That pretty much completes it for this week. Any questions, drop them below and we'll look forward to seeing you soon. Have a good week. Take care. Bye bye for now.